Hey everyone. My name is Sofia. I am 24 years old. I am from Brazil. 5 months ago, I could not speak one full sentence in English. Not even how are you, without thinking hard. I was completely lost. Today, I want to tell you how I learned English in just 5 months. No expensive classes, no moving to another country, no wasting time on things that don't work. But this is not just my story. This is your story too. If you ever felt frustrated, stuck, or embarrassed because of your English, keep watching. Because I was exactly where you are right now. And I promise, if you listen to my full story, you will know exactly what to do to improve your English. So let's go back to the beginning. The moment that changed everything. I always wanted to work for a big international company. My dream was to be a software engineer at a top tech company. I loved coding. I was good at it. I worked very hard for years. Then one day, I got my chance. I applied for a big company in the US. The recruiter emailed me, "Congratulations, you are selected for an interview." I was so excited. I imagined my new life, a new country, a big salary, working with great people. But then the interview happened. I opened Zoom. There were 3 interviewers, all native English speakers. They started talking and I felt like someone pressed fast forward. I could not understand anything. They asked me the first question. "Sofia, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your experience in software development?" I panicked. I knew the answer in my head, but the words did not come out. I said, yes, I am, software, I do coding, many projects. Good. I am very good. They looked at me. The silence felt terrible. I could not answer. In the end, one of them smiled and said, "All right, Sofia. Thank you for your time." I knew what that meant. I had failed. I did not get the job. Not because I was bad at coding, but because I could not speak English. That day I understood the power of English. It was not just a language, it was the key to my dream, and I didn't have that key. I felt ashamed, angry at myself. For years I had told myself, I don't need English, I'll just be good at my job, that's enough. But now I saw the truth. Without English, I was invisible. That night I made a decision. I will learn English, and I will learn it fast. Why I did not pay for expensive classes. Most people start by paying for expensive courses. I did not do that, because I had already tried them before. They didn't work. 1 year ago, I paid for an online English class. The teacher made me memorize word lists, do grammar exercises, study boring rules. After 3 months, I still couldn't have a real conversation. So I knew expensive classes were not the answer. I needed something different. A system that worked in real life. That is when I created my 5-month method. I will share it with you now, step by step. Part 1. The first 15 days. The biggest mistake beginners make is thinking they need more words. I thought the same. I thought if I learn 1,000 words, I will speak fluently. But the truth is, I already knew hundreds of words, and I still could not speak. So for the first 15 days, I did not study any new words. Instead, I did something much more powerful. I learned how to use the words I already knew. Here's exactly what I did. First, I made a survival sentence list. I sat down and thought, what do I actually need to say every day? I wrote 50 simple sentences. For example, "Hi, how are you? Can you repeat that? I don't understand. I am learning English. I need a coffee, please." Every morning I read these 50 sentences out loud. Not once. Not twice. 10 times. At first my tongue felt slow. But after 5 days, these sentences became automatic. Second, I started speaking to myself in English every single day. This is one of the most powerful things I did. When I was in the shower, I said, "I am taking a shower. The water is hot. I feel relaxed." When I made breakfast, I said, "I am making eggs. I like eggs, they are easy to cook." At first I felt stupid, but then I realized this was my private classroom. No one could hear me, no one could judge me, and in just 1 week, my brain started thinking in English. I practiced 5 sentences a day with a special twist. Every day I chose 5 sentences from movies or real conversations. I did not just read them. I copied them exactly. I repeated each one 10 times, with the same emotion, the same speed, and the same pronunciation as the native speaker. This helped me fix my accent and sound natural. By the end of the first 15 days, something changed. I stopped translating in my head. I could say basic sentences without thinking. I felt more confident. But this was just the beginning. Part 2, the real practice begins. After 15 days, I was ready for the next step. I could say short sentences without thinking. I wanted to understand native speakers without translating in my head. So I created a new plan. I noticed something important. When I tried to speak English, my brain was slow. I knew the words, but I could not put them together fast enough. I needed a way to make speaking feel natural. So I started using what I now call the question-answer method. It is simple but very powerful. Here's how it works. 1. Ask yourself a simple question in English. 2. Answer it right away without thinking too much. 3. Repeat with different answers each time. For example, I started with an easy question. What did you do today? At first my answer was short. I worked, but I forced myself to say more. I worked on my project. I worked on my project for 3 hours. I worked on my project for 3 hours, then I took a break. I worked on my project for 3 hours, then I took a break and had some coffee. Every time I answered, I added more details. This trained my brain to think in English and speak without stopping. I did this every single day for at least 30 minutes. My speaking speed improved a lot. My sentences became longer, and I stopped translating in my head. The echo technique. One of my biggest problems was pronunciation. I still sounded like a foreigner. So I used the echo technique. This is the best way to improve pronunciation without a teacher. Here's how it works. 1. Listen to a native speaker from a movie, YouTube, or a podcast. 2. Pause after each sentence. 3. Repeat the sentence exactly. Same speed, same tone, same emotion. For example, I took a short clip from a movie. The character said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I paused. Then I repeated, "I don't know what you're talking about." But after repeating 10 times, my voice started to sound similar to the native speaker. I did this every day for 30 minutes. After 1 month, my pronunciation improved so much that native speakers started saying, "Wow, your English sounds really natural." The story method. I knew vocabulary was important, but memorizing word lists does not work. So I used the story method. Here is how it works. 1. Pick 5 new words every day. 2. Create a short story using all 5 words. 3. Read the story out loud 10 times. 4. Use the words in your real conversations. Example. New words: excited, invitation, party, arrive, surprise. My story. I was very excited because I received an invitation to a big party. When I arrived at the party, I got a huge surprise. It was my birthday party. I did this every day. After 3 months, I had learned over 1,000 new words, without memorizing anything. Training my brain to think in English. One of the biggest problems learners have is that they think in their native language first, then translate into English. This makes speaking slow and unnatural. So I trained my brain to think in English. Here's how. 1. I described everything around me in English. When I walked outside, I said in my mind, "The sky is blue. The weather is hot. I see people walking. That man is wearing a red shirt." 2. I asked myself questions and answered in English. What am I doing right now? I am sitting in a chair, drinking coffee and writing in my notebook. 3. I wrote a daily journal in English. Every night I wrote about my day. At first I wrote very simple sentences, but after 1 month, my writing became more natural. After a few weeks, something amazing happened. English words came naturally into my mind. I also made one simple rule. Every day I had to speak English for at least 2 hours. No excuses. If I had no one to talk to, I talked to myself. If I didn't have time, I spoke while cooking, cleaning, or walking. If I felt lazy, I reminded myself. English is my future. I cannot quit. Part 3. My final breakthrough. Now that I had built the habit of listening and repeating, I wanted to push myself further. But I also realized something very important. Just listening and speaking was not enough if I did not understand the grammar and structure of English properly. I started paying attention to how native speakers structured their sentences. For example, I heard people say, "I have been learning English for 5 months." But in school, I had learned to say, I am learning English for 5 months. That was my first big realization. The English we learn in school is often different from the English people actually speak. So, I started learning the differences. I learned about tenses. When do people use the present perfect? Why do they say I have been learning instead of I am learning? Small details like these made a huge difference in sounding natural. I also kept a small notebook for confusing prepositions. On the bus but in the car. At night but in the morning. Whenever I had doubts, I searched for the answer online, or listened to how native speakers use them. I also wrote a daily diary in English. Every night I wrote about my day. At first, it was very simple. Today I went to work, I was tired, I ate pizza, it was good. But slowly I improved. Another thing that helped me a lot was shadowing. I found videos of native speakers, put on headphones, and repeated every word immediately after them. I matched their speed and pronunciation. I did this for at least 20 minutes a day. In just a few weeks, my pronunciation improved a lot. I also watched English movies with subtitles. But instead of just watching, I paused after every sentence and repeated it. I focused on pronunciation, tone, and rhythm. Slowly my English started sounding more natural. At this stage I realized something very important. English is not just about words and grammar, it is also about confidence. Many people know English, but are too scared to speak. I made a decision. I will not be afraid of making mistakes. I started speaking to people in English whenever I got the chance. At work, at the store, with friends. I spoke even when I was not sure. And I noticed something surprising. People understood me even when I made small mistakes. They did not laugh at me. This gave me the confidence to keep going. But then I faced my biggest fear, talking to native English speakers. I was terrified they wouldn't understand me, or that I would freeze. So I came up with a strategy. I prepared 10 common conversation topics and practiced them every day. How was your day? What do you do for work? What is your favorite food? I practiced answering these questions fluently, then I took the big step. I joined an online group where people from different countries practiced English together. At first I was nervous, but soon I realized everyone was there to learn, just like me. I made friends from different countries, we practiced together. This not only improved my English, but also made learning fun. As I reached the final stage of my journey, I felt a strong confidence growing inside me. One day I was speaking to myself in the mirror, as I had done so many times before. But this time something was different. I was not hesitating. I was not translating in my head. The words were flowing naturally. It felt like magic, but in reality, it was the result of months of hard work. That same day, I decided to test my progress. I joined an online meeting where people from different countries discussed various topics. At first, I was nervous, but I reminded myself, I have worked too hard to doubt myself now. And then I spoke. The words came out clearly, confidently. I didn't struggle to find the right words. I understood what others were saying without feeling lost. People listened to me, nodded, and even asked me questions. That was the day I knew I had achieved fluency. 5 months after I started, I applied for my dream job again. This time I was not the same Sofia who had walked in nervously before. I was not the girl who hesitated, who felt small, who couldn't find the right words. This time I walked into that interview with confidence. I sat in front of the interviewer not as someone who feared English, but as someone who had mastered it. I spoke clearly. I answered every question with ease, and I could see it in their eyes. They were impressed. Not just with my language, but with my effort, my persistence, and my transformation. A few days later I got the call. Sofia, congratulations, you got the job. For a second I could not believe it. My dream job, the same company that had rejected me before, but now they wanted me. My starting salary was $5,000 a month, more than I had ever imagined earning. I just stood there holding my phone, my eyes full of tears. The first thing I did was call my parents. Mom, Dad, I did it. My mother started crying. My father, a man who rarely shows emotions, simply said, "We always knew you could." And in that moment I realized I was not just doing this for me. I was doing it for them too. With my first salary, I bought my father a beautiful watch, something he had always wanted but never bought for himself. For my mother, I bought a gold necklace. She had sacrificed so much for me and our family. And now it was my turn to give back. When I handed them the gifts, they refused at first. "We don't need anything, my dear." But I shook my head. "No, this is my way of saying thank you. Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." And that was the moment I understood. It was all worth it. Every struggle, every late night, every moment of frustration, every time I felt like giving up. It was all worth it. Key lessons from my journey. Now let me share the most important things I learned that helped me become fluent in just a few months. 1. Mindset is everything. Most people fail to learn English because they believe they can't. I used to think the same way, but the moment I changed my mindset, everything changed. I stopped saying, "I am bad at English," and started saying, "I am improving every day." If you think you can't do it, you won't. But if you believe you can, you will find a way. 2. Surround yourself with English. I made English a part of my daily life. I changed my phone's language to English. I watched only English content. I listened to English songs. I followed English-speaking people on social media. Every day I was feeding my brain with English. When I looked at any object, I named it in English. Small things like this helped me build my vocabulary naturally. 3. Speak without fear. Many people are afraid of making mistakes, but mistakes are part of learning. I forced myself to speak. I spoke to shopkeepers in English. I asked strangers for directions in English. I talked to myself in English whenever I was alone. The more I spoke, the better I became. 4. Active listening and shadowing. Listening is just as important as speaking. I trained my ears by listening to English podcasts, audiobooks, and conversations. But I didn't just listen passively. I practiced shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a sentence and repeating it immediately, copying the pronunciation and rhythm. This helped me improve my accent and fluency. 5. Learn vocabulary the smart way. I stopped memorizing long word lists. Instead, I learned words in context. I focused on phrases. For example, instead of just memorizing the word happy, I learned phrases like, "I feel so happy today," and "that movie made me really happy." Learning in context made it much easier to remember and use words naturally. 6. Learn grammar without books. I didn't spend hours studying grammar books. I learned grammar naturally by listening and speaking. When I made a mistake, I noted it and corrected myself. The best way to learn grammar is by using the language, not memorizing rules. 7. Consistency over perfection. Some people wait until they are perfect before they start speaking. That is a mistake. I started speaking from day one, even when I only knew a few words. I made a rule. Every day I will do something in English. Some days I spoke for 10 minutes. Some days I wrote a short paragraph. Some days I just listened to a podcast. The key was to never stop. Even on lazy days, I still did something small. You don't need expensive classes. You don't need a perfect environment. You just need a strong desire and a commitment to practice every day. Imagine yourself 6 months from now, confidently. Imagine the opportunities that will come your way. Imagine how proud you will feel. Start today. Speak, listen, practice, and never give up. Your future self will thank you. This is not just about learning English. It is about changing your life. And now I want to say something directly to you. If I can do it, you can do it too. It doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter how bad you think your English is right now. What matters is that you start today. I know it's hard. I know it feels impossible sometimes. But trust me, the only thing standing between you and fluency is consistency. Stop doubting yourself. Stop making excuses. Surround yourself with English. Speak, listen, read, write. Every single day. Make mistakes, learn from them, improve. Because here's the truth. The pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts forever. So what will you choose? Choose discipline. Choose growth. Choose success. Your journey to fluency starts now. If this story inspired you, like this video and subscribe to my channel. I will be with you every step of the way.